When the motor car was invented, people had no idea how they would actually use it. What a far cry it is from these days where you can sit 20 miles in a queue for over 3 hours and effectively get nowhere. It is much like the government, isn't it, when one president or one prime minister tries to explain about entrepreneurship, and then you suddenly find that they're equating free enterprise with the rule of law, that they don't actually know what they're ruling about. When Rudyard Kipling got one of his first motor cars, he wrote a series of verses on motoring and motorists, and in the form of parodies in the style of earlier writers, which compared with Harold Wilson's experience of the Yellow Line, which basically was invented to stop parking in 1963, you see some way that we have come in progress. And then you may see, apart from the notes of Mr. John Givering and John Radcliffe drawing on org and making extensive use of the work of Anthony Gunn, Kipling's reading, and all his expectancies with the Rolls-Royce, which is still preserved, his 1928 Rolls-Royce, which wasn't the car which broke an axle when he drove it to France. Nevertheless, we see, if you look back, that there was no such thing once as roads. Roads were a thing of the future. That if you could only find the air to fly an aeroplane, even the Wright brothers might have been succeeding faster than they would have done in all the speeches about entrepreneurship. And then when you look back to the times of Mozart, people were so absolutely perishing at his funeral that it's a wonder even Britain knew about it when you see what happened to Austria-Hungary in the 17th, 18th, 19th centuries, where Mozart's visit to Britain was not by Suzuki CS50, it was by a horseless carriage. Not even. It was by the horse-drawn carriage, much the same as the one which he'd said at his long trips around the continent to the performances which he made many upon the Rhine. Thus we came to the problems faced by Franz Ferdinand in the settlements which he had to partake over the ascendancy and descendancy of monarchy, which was really after the end of Leopold II, who was effectively the last Roman emperor after about 1802, 1805. You see that even the Romans' history was not going to be founded much longer after the effects of Europe, 19th century, building into World War I, where all the borders of Austro-Hungary, got hungrier, and the roads got shorter, the vehicles got heavier and bigger, and then you find that by the time you get to the Second World War, that you find the periods after the war was a certain poverty, which you may talk about entrepreneurship, but you only have to study the fact that food rationing still existed until 1956. So we come to the 1960s, which I doubt if few of us will really remember, but the effects of the Chinese markets, which was entrepreneurship, which was treading on sacred ground, I suppose, in the finance department of Coventry, where the typical motorcycle was perhaps a Norton 750, and those who could afford a Vespa or an Italian job were rather still trying to kick it into life. Here we have an example of the Japanese build of Michio Suzuki, whose life was such a free passion and much more than a religious exercise. It was the embodiment of freedom and free trade, so far removed from the 7th of December 1941 Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. And yet we've reached days where the experience of presidents and prime ministers is that as much as they talk about equality and the amount of free trade and more trade with Africa, except that there is no trade possible where we still have not equated human relationships between factions, and we still do not live as United Nations or United Kingdoms or United States in one brotherhood or sisterhood. So the experience of Michio Suzuki has gone a long way to heal the breaches of this modern world, which seem to get in many ways broader according to how many drones are flying and how many snoopers are snooping on your state at any one time and encroaching in what you do and limiting it. So welcome to Fernando Ray Limited. You are very welcome. This machine is one of the finest machines that has ever been invented, the way that it has been looked after. Many of them cannot speak so highly of Michio Suzuki, but here some £3,000 or £4,000 bills, I suppose, have the reputation of being exactly as it is in the pictures and the films. I don't think there need be any more said. Just enjoy it. And as they say on eBay and in the Houses of Parliament, happy bidding.
Probably.